Hey guys, we're gonna take you back to the past, and by the past I mean like 2013, which actually really wasn't that long ago, or whatever.
It's technically still the past.
Well, everything's the past. My intro was in the past now. Welcome to AVGN Adventures, the 2D side-scrolling, 8-bit-ish 2D platformer celebrating everything angry video game nerd. And I just gotta say, right up, I love the AVGN. He's probably the reason why I'm here. Like right now.
Your reason for being.
Well, I can't think of one person who has had more of an impact on how this kind of corner of YouTube works than the AVGN, honestly. So, you know, you can't help but love this little shitload of fuck.
Yeah. AVGN was one of the not the only really early video gamer when it comes to gaming stuff, but you know, one of the first and definitely the first big one. Like yeah. I can only think of one YouTube personality off the top of my head who was doing this sort of stuff as far back as before YouTube, and that other one is Ashens, who has a completely different thing going for him.
Yeah, he might not have been the first angry reviewer, but he definitely solidified that trope as something that would be ripped off by millions of YouTube people. Imagine all of the recording your TV with a camcorder review shows he has inspired. Like, very few of us have that power. So, yeah. So
because a lot of us don't even have VHS recorders anymore.
No.
I think the first AVGN video, the original version of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde review was actually recorded on a VHS tape.
Yeah, I think his Simon's Quest video was also on a VHS tape.
Yeah, but Simon's Quest was different than almost everything else because it was just him talking over gameplay footage, whereas everything else would have him cut between him and his nerd persona and him.
So he really started as a Let's Play channel.
Whatever. Anyway, this is a pathetic. This is a pathetic showcase of the first level because I died twice, which was sad. I used to be really good at this game. In fact, I did one of the first big Let's Plays of this game when it first came out, and it's pretty successful if I do say so myself. But it had been a couple of months since I had played this, so it's kind of a rusty playthrough, I will say.
We should do a day one Let's Play, get all those sweet views.
Yeah, basically what happened when I recorded that is I played through the game once, I had a blast, so I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna play through the game again. And then I was like, I know this game pretty well, I'm gonna just record it, and then I did a Let's Play of it, so yeah, it was pretty good. Anyway.
So what you're saying is you played it 3 times in a row without stopping?
Yeah, so I pulled your, what was it, Mega Man 9 is what you did that for?
No, that was Adventure 2.
Oh, Adventure 2, okay. Yeah, but anyway, the first time I played this game, actually, I did Future Footballs 2010 last, so I had no idea how to unlock any of the other extra characters. Pro tip, if you're playing this game, play Future Footballs 2010 first, because you unlock the guitar guy in this level, and you need him to unlock the other characters, so...
Yeah, it's like a domino effect for unlockables.
That's kind of, not the best design when it comes to, unlockable stuff. I mean, imagine in a Mega Man game, if you had to play a specific level first to unlock any weapons at all.
Well, there's kind of some stuff like that in Mega Man 1, where you need to do Gutsman before Electman in order to get the Magnet Beam, unless you have to go back to the level. But yeah, I mean, I like this game a lot. It does have problems. Notably that if you want to play this game without tearing your hair out, you kind of have to tiptoe through it. Which I personally don't mind, but I can imagine that for some people, that could be incredibly frustrating. Because the big thing about this game is that it's trying to emulate a lot of the different kind of shitty video game tropes that had been happening, particularly the NES days.
Pretty much everything the nerd has bitched about in his videos.
Yeah, a lot of things that I find funny are kind of the little things that he bitched about that they put in intentionally. Like, I think if you press the pause button, it has this faux Battletoads drum beat that the nerd specifically bitched about in his Battletoads review. So, some of that stuff is played for laughs. You could easily argue, though, that the parody just isn't a parody. It's just doing stuff that's bad on purpose.
It winds up playing itself straight at times, from what I've seen and heard of the game. That's part of the reason why I haven't actually gotten it myself yet. It seems like the kind of game someone else would enjoy, but not necessarily the kind of game I would enjoy.
I find that becomes a little bit less of a problem again, but you have to play it right. You know, like I know the way I'm going to talk right now sounds like I'm going to be a stuck-up asshole, but I'm one of those anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You really have to play the game a specific way in order to enjoy it, and in that case, it's being very methodical. And because I'd say 9 out of 10 times, every obstacle has a solution. Like there's a and in every area there's a part where you can be safe, and you have as much time as you need to study the pattern to get through. I guess is the way I'm trying to explain it. So, if you...
Well, not having a time limit helps.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, though, you do have to, like, jump over a rotating death circle or something in order to study it, but that's kind of mindless, so I don't really mind that too much. But, yeah, there's no time limit, but you are given a time at the end of the stage, so if you give a shit about that, you know, good for you. The game also counts how many deaths you have, but you're probably going to die a lot anyway, mostly due to instant death stuff, so... You know,
death blocks.
Death blocks. Oh yeah.
I would say death blocks are the #1 cause of death. And
also, death beams. Like there's a bunch of them in this level, but they're in almost every level, and they're a pain
in my
the ass.
case. In my case, I don't remember if I brought this up in my review of it, but the nerd or every other character in this game packs a bit of momentum, just slightly. Where you when you want to stop, you don't immediately grind to a halt. You slide just slightly, and that often spells in situations where platforms are 2 blocks wide, death. And I find that to be
Mega Man 1 syndrome.
Yeah, it's exactly like Mega Man in a sense, where those are to me the most embarrassing, because it looks like you just walk off the fucking thing. It's like no, it's like I let go of the D-pad about like 5 frames ago, but it doesn't register until it's too late.
That's not something I've really noticed, but I'm sure that's happened to me in this playthrough, so we'll see it eventually.
I can probably visually confirm when it happens to you, even if you're not aware of it. But yeah, I guess we'll see for this 5-part playthrough.
Oh yeah,
jeez. That platform where you had to shoot the thing and it jerks forward really fast with the death blocks there. That looks like palm sweating.
It gets worse.
I think. Honestly, the game, I think, is at its best when you know what's coming, like when you know what the threat is, and you're trying to kind of get through it safely. Like, not when it's doing stuff that's unfair. And, like, even though the game, I think, is technically fair, most of the time there are definitely some unfair shit, particularly in Boo Haunted House. Fuck that level. That's easily the worst level in the game for me. But, most of the time, I think the game is fair. So when you're like in the middle of something, particularly like say that moving platform thing with the death block, you get really tense, and it's you can almost feel the adrenaline pumping at some point, which it's a really good kind of feeling. Again, this is not the kind of game that I would recommend to everyone. I mean, easy mode is easy enough that you could probably beat it if you were anyone, because I think you're given unlimited lives and all the enemies are weaker, so anybody can beat it. But if you're playing this game on easy mode, I think you're kind of playing the wrong game a little bit, because like if you want an easy game, you really probably should not be playing AVGN Adventures. It's like
to play this game on easy mode is kind of defeating the point.
Dick missiles.
Along with Bomb Man's Namekian trees.
Now, you know, it's a little fairly obvious throughout most of the game that the lack of variety in what you run into in the levels is a little painful at times, you know, with the constant death blocks and a lot of the enemies being reskinned versions of the same enemies. But this particular segment where it goes all Silver Surfer is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of 2D shooter sections. There's one in the Dungeons and Dragons level. There's one there. I think there's like 2 or 3. throughout the game, and they're pretty good. I like that they actually are on on a silver surfboard. And again, and one of the more subtle riffs on the games is that those little weird-looking enemies were doing the same kind of weird circular enemy pattern that a lot of the enemies in Silver Surfer actually did. So, a lot of this game's references to the AVGN, the games he's reviewed, are pretty obvious. But some of them are more subtle like that, which I appreciate that there's a lot more detail put into this game than one might assume. So, yeah. Especially if you're a fan of the AVGN, a lot of this game is going to be a lot of fun to play.
And that's where I bring up the other thing. If you're a fan of the AVGN, and to me that it is a downside to this game. It is limited appeal.
Yeah.
Like,
Is this the face from that Jaguar game?
yeah.
Yeah.
From the Cybermorph shit.
Yeah. Where did you learn to be an asshole?
Just to expand on John's point of the limited appeal, that's really kind of no different than any licensed game, really.
Yeah, the only one the only licensed game that I can think of off the top of my head, well, there's two actually now that I'm thinking about it, that people tend to talk about as being really good, regardless, regardless of its franchise, is DuckTales on the NES and the TMNT4. Almost everything else, there's kind of a caveat of GoldenEye, I suppose. Like, I mean, there are examples, but for most, let's say, decent to good-ish licensed games, it's like, if you're a fan of this franchise, you'll like this game, is usually the kind of the caveat you see with most licensed stuff.
But I would say that if a game is of a certain quality, it being licensed is irrelevant. Like, I enjoy the DuckTales game. Didn't really watch a whole lot of the cartoon, so it doesn't come from the appeal of the show for me. Chronicles of Riddick on the Xbox.
Well, Chronicles of Riddick is... yeah,
I couldn't give a shit about that movie or the book.
Yeah, but nobody... Yeah, but I think the funny thing about Chronicles of Riddick is that it kind of became a video game series because nobody liked anything else regarding the character.
But the point stands, the game is still solid for
Yeah.
a licensed property. The thing about AVGN, though, besides it being licensed, in a sense, is that it is a dickishly hard game on purpose, which that itself has a more limited appeal than, say, something like DuckTales or...
Yeah. I would say the only other licensed game that I can think of that has that kind of it stands on its own element to it is actually Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, because that's set so far back in the timeline that it could very easily be the first Star Wars thing you ever experience, and it would make total sense.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, you're obviously going to get more enjoyment out of it, like, if you know, like, oh, I gotta be a Jedi now and stuff like that, but you could... the mythology stands on its own in that game, whereas, because they don't even, like, reference stuff like Empire or whatever, because
it's not like the Star Wars prequel movies where it's obvious that these things are leading up to stuff that you're supposed to have seen before you watch the prequels, but at the same time there are parts of the experience that you will obviously appreciate a little bit more if you're a fan of the movies already, like getting your lightsaber. There's an unconscious build up to that moment if you know that a Jedi builds his or her own lightsaber as part of their training. So getting to that point where you've made a lightsaber or obtained one is a milestone.
Not to mention that if you're a Star Wars fan, you just want one because they're cool.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. The thing about AVGN Adventures particularly is that, like, there's a couple of moments where, like, you kind of see your death coming from, or just kind of stuff like that happens where they gimp your...
Oh yeah, there's just that split-second sense of inevitability that, fuck.
Yeah, and you think, wait, maybe I can say, nope. No, you can't.
No. You've already exploded into ham chunks, baby.
Yeah, but the stuff I was talking about is, like, where you had those, like, rotating fireballs. And you could look at the pattern. You had as much time as you want to look at the pattern and be like, okay, once these two fireballs unsync, I'm gonna jump now. And stuff like that. Most of the time, the game is pretty good about giving you a window to see what you need to do and jump for it. The thing is that, again, you can play it like that, but it also results in you playing the game as a snail's pace.
That death right there is you letting go of the D-pad, but the nerd's still going forward just a bit.
It's a good thing they put a checkpoint right before that.
There's a number of places where you'll like I forgot that there were reappearing, disappearing death blocks there. So that could have either been that or just me being stupid. I don't even remember. Oh, here we have Mike, who's probably Motherfucker Mike. It's between him and the Bullshit Man, I think, is the least useful extra character in the game.
Speaking of getting a lightsaber.
Yeah,
he too plays Old Republic.
Actually, I'd probably use Mike more than the Bullshit Man because Mike's lightsaber is actually really good for those kind of like bat enemies that just kind of slowly come towards you. Because you can just like wave the thing in front of you and then they'll just die. And he jumps higher too, which makes certain platforming challenges a little bit easier. The Bullshit Man just goes.
Yeah, but Mike's a bit floatier out of the Luigi.
Yeah, but that's actually it makes getting certain secrets a little bit easier. Oh, I should mention there's a bunch of cameos by random ass people. Some of them related to the nerd, some of them just slightly affiliated with Screw Attack in general. I'm getting as many of them as I know about, but I still haven't found all of them yet because I mostly don't give a shit. So
they're not James Rolfe.
Yeah, well, like, some of them make sense, like, who's it's called? The guy he did, Pat the NES Punk, because the nerd did a review with him about the Nintendo World Championships.
Actually, James Rolfe does more with Pat the NES Punk than you'd think, because sometimes he does little exclusive reviews for Pat's channel that you won't see if you only follow the nerd's channel.
Yeah.
Not like full featured reviews, more like mini videos for like his Nintendo marathons and whatnot.
Yeah,
so there are a couple of those on that you might want to check out.
Yeah, how the fuck is anyone supposed to get the beer down there? Yeah, it's like the writing in this game is sometimes a little bit forced, but occasionally it does have. Because I don't think the nerd was actually directly involved with the making of this game. I think they just let him put his name on it. So it's not like he's writing most of this, I guess I should point out. This is probably the hardest part in the entire stage. Trying to get the key and go all the way back. What the hell was? Oh yeah, some of the cameos make sense, like Pat the NES Punk, or but then there's random people like Brental Floss, who really haven't had anything to do with the nerd before, that are just kind of there because they're pals with people at Screw Attack. So
I think that's pretty much the only reason.
Yeah, so like I know that they wanted to have secrets in every stage, so I'm not really too upset about it, but. It's something a little bit weird.
It's still charming to see someone like Brental Floss pop up. It just feels a bit more, a tiny bit more shameless. Like he's here because he's popular, rather than he's here because he's relevant.
Yeah, like here is Jim Sterling, who I love Jim Sterling, so I'm not trying to talk shit about him. But I don't think he and the nerd have done anything together.
I was about to say I don't think him and James have done like anything at all together.
Actually, I don't think Jim Sterling works at Destructoid anymore, so him being next to
that's like that kind of dates this game a bit.
Yeah, I mean the game is already a little bit dated because it came out in 2013. I should mention that the sequel, AVGN 2 Ass Simulation, just came out at the time of this recording. We are actually recording these. I recorded that game too, so. We're doing these back to back, and a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in this playthrough, most of those issues are fixed in AVGN 2, so that's generally the better game. So if you're interested in this in general, I would recommend trying that one. I mean, there are certain things about AVGN 2 that I don't like as much as AVGN 1, but I'll get to that when we actually start playing AVGN 2, so, yeah. Also, what the hell is this boss supposed to even be? I don't...
it's that old, like, really early monster movie character. I can't remember what movie it's from. It's like The Claw or something.
Oh.
The black and white monster film, right?
Yeah.
Where it was attacking a bridge, I think it was?
I think so.
Is this, like, referenced in anything he's done, or was it, like, a Monster Madness
thing?
Like a Monster Madness
Yeah, it might be just
probably.
a Cinemassacre reference, yeah.
Okay.
Not so much an AVGN reference.
Because this is one that I didn't get. Most of the bosses in the game are references to something, so that's probably.
Yeah. If you're gonna have a game centered on James Rolfe's character, it would make sense that you have some reference to what he does in his spare time.
You see
Is
more
there-
of that in AVGN too, actually.
Is there ever at any point a Board James reference?
No, but in AVGN 2, there's an entire world based around board games.
Oh, excellent. I might actually get that one.